Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hey JNB, hi Val, hey Goju, hey BL, hey Ola. Good to see you all here, right? Even before we start. So thank you for jumping on. Um, I'm somewhat happy it is the weekend coming up. Don't I typically like the weekdays more? I typically like the weekdays more just because I get more trades. A little bit of a workaholic, so I get to do more work as well. So yeah, weekends are good, but I do prefer the weekdays. We'll give it a couple of minutes before we get started. In the meantime, I'll go get some water. Just hang on there. And I'm back. What's happening? Let's wait a couple of minutes before we get started. We'll see who else turns up. Hey Spiros. Hope you're all well. Hey Nick, good to see you. Hi HDRL. Right, while we're giving that 1 to 2 more minutes, do help me out. Click that little rocket ship button and that thumbs up button on YouTube and on TradingView. Let's get more people on board. I had one quick scalp on the Aussie dollar, very quick, very small move, and then just got out of that, and then now I'm just sitting there waiting. I think it looks like it might be a quiet session today. Maybe see some retracements heading into the weekend. Anyone traded the? Well, I know who traded, but anyone else traded the pound dollar last night with the Bank of England interest rate decision? Let me know. Good job, BL. I thought I was actually counting on BL saying, not trading during that news, but good to see. Alrighty, let's get started. Again, thank you all for jumping onto this session, the daily market analysis. Doing this for the last couple of months now, 3 p.m. almost every day, 3 p.m. GMT plus 8, where I share with you my daily market views on where I think prices could get to in terms of looking at the fundamentals, how price is moving on the technicals, combine that together, we look for some possible trade setups. If you haven't already, the link is there for you guys. Do join the Discord channel. I'm super impressed with what everyone has been sharing in the community. Good trade setups, very good trade setups, and I think it's a very transparent group because we're not just sharing about making money, right? We're not just sharing about making money. We do have bad trades. We do have learning scenarios where we got into bad trades, we lost, and things to look out for, things to learn. All right, so it's not all And trading is not like that. Trading is not 100% making money. There will be times where you get into a trade, you lose, you made money over a couple of trades, and then one last trade, if you don't follow the rules or your own rules, then you could get into a bad trade. You could be losing money. All right. Not picking out on any particular person, but you guys know that's how trading is. All right. So don't get too discouraged if you come across a situation where you might have a couple of bad trades. It is part of the journey. What you need to do is really to understand it's a long-term process. Make sure you manage your risk properly. Make sure you're still always coming back to that idea or approach where you are looking for the good setups, right? Setups can be good. It will just increase your chance of making money. There can be times where something crazy happens and then you end up losing, but focus on looking for that good setup. All right. Hey Suki, how are you doing? So with that said, quick disclaimer, any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only. Please do your oh, man. Please do your own due diligence. The contents of this webinar is not intended to be a recommendation to trade a financial product, and your objectives, financial situation, and needs has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. Okay, so nothing much more to add. Let's jump straight into it. Oh, and as usual, if you have any trading related questions, any particular pairs you would like me to look into, put it into the chat, let me know. I'll be happy to give you my points of view on those setups or those pairs, FX pairs, gold or commodities or instruments as well. I think Ola was sharing about the view on gold. We'll look into that. Jambi was sharing her view or adding on to the view on the US CAD. So we'll look into that as well. All right. I'll go through the main ones and then we can always add on to whatever you guys need. One more thing I was going to say was, so there was some discussions about the masterclass to come up. I have been thinking hard about it, have a plan developing, so I'll let you guys know more about it as we firm up on that plan. All right, so stay tuned, it's coming up. Oh, sorry, Jambi. I mean, Jambi was sharing, okay? With that, Jambi just threw me off my thought process. And I got a guy here laughing at me as well now, just behind the screen, just laughing away. I'm all out of sorts. It's Friday. It's Friday, 3 p.m. In a couple of hours, I should be having drinks. Okay, so with that, let's look into what happened since we last spoke. 7 p.m. last night, 7 p.m. GMT +8 last night, we did have the Bank of England with their official bank rates as expected. 4.25 increase to 4.5, a 25 basis point rate hike. No change in terms of voting numbers. So it didn't come out. I was telling you guys, yesterday that maybe we'll see voting numbers change. It didn't change. The bank rates came out as expected. Then if you look at the monetary policy summary, all right, we'll look through that together. So they set to meet the 2%, they're way far, they're still at 10.1%. They voted to increase by 25 basis points to 4.5%. We still had 2 members voting to hold it at 4.25. All right. There was a line I was looking for. There's been upside news to the near-term outlook for global activity. GDP expected. This was a bit of a surprise that GDP expected to grow at a moderate pace, but we just had the news release. It came in negative. All right, expected to be flat over the first half of the year. What was that line? Inflation at 10.2% 2%. So it's still higher than expected, but I think that the line reflects the emergence of slack. Sorry, I can't find that line right now. Previous. Let me see if I find the word previous. Nope, not that one. Greater than expected in previous forecast. Nope. Okay. 12-month CPI policy decision. Okay, I think it's somewhere here. 12-month CPI been higher than expected. Okay, it's expected. Here we go. CPI is expected to fall sharply in April. So we are at that point where it hasn't yet. Okay, I'm not going to find that line. It comes down to that one where it says that they expect the impact or the effect of the previous interest rate hikes to start taking effect, right? To start taking effect. So that added on, because they're talking about possibly, or they're expecting the previous rate hikes to take into effect to bring inflation down. That increases the likelihood that they might come to the point of slowing or pausing on further rate hikes. Okay, so that's also why, there we go, depends on data. Rate hikes will weigh more on economy in coming quarters, take into factors. Okay, but that's also why we saw the pound dollar last night pretty much move as expected. Okay, so the news was released at 7, right? It did shoot up because it was an interest rate hike. Then it did come down, break below this support level of 1.2580. We had our signal to sell at 1.2570, right down to the support level of 1.25. So very happy that worked out. I think a couple of you did jump into that trade. I jumped in a little bit later, so I did ride this to the downside as well. Okay, so let me know if you guys got onto this pound dollar trade. This also highlights the importance to not just look at the news event, right? Look at it as a broad scope, and to possibly think about the anticipation of what could happen. Because most often, if you just went across standard ideas of that interest rate hikes, we're going to see price shoot to the upside, then you're going to expect price to be at 1.2580 to push up. Okay, typically, if you're just talking about increasing rates, then yeah, it should push up, but it's now considering rates and inflation. That's why I had that expectation is going to drop. I was just sharing this in but earlier today in the Discord channel, given, I think it was at that point, about 11 a.m. there, right? Given that the pound dollar found a good support at 1.25, with that trend line supporting, giving good strong support. So you have a diagonal support, you have a horizontal support. I was highlighting to everyone on Discord that we might see this bounce up happening right now, but I'll give you more details of that shortly. Okay, so that was the big news from last night in terms of the Bank of England with their interest rate decision. PPI for the US, Producer Price Index, came out at 0.2%. It was minus 0.5, revised to minus 0.4. Expected 0.3, came out at 0.2. Core PPI, which excludes food and energy, was minus 0.1%. Expected at 0.2, came out at 0.2. So this was a little bit of a surprise, because I was sharing with you guys, I expected some maybe to keep it within that negative range or to have only a small increase, because we saw CPI in the US dropping slightly. So I was anticipating that PPI should not be such a big jump. All right, so It did come out as expected and slightly lower than expected. Because of this, at 8:30, what we saw on the dollar index at 8:30 there, right, was a brief downward move, and then after that a push back up again, right? Push back up to that 102 resistance level. The view still holds, so we were expecting this, right? 12th of May right now. Hey Tommy, how you doing? Hey Angel Case. Hey Mady. Hi Dafuk. Okay, we were expecting the dollar index to spike up, looking for a rejection of 102 to test 101.60. It took a lot longer than I expected, so it did come up to that 102 region as high as 102.15, but it looks like the upside might not sustain. It looks like it's going to retrace back down. Okay, so I will still keep to this view that we could be looking for not spike up, but we could be looking for it to reject 102 or look for confirmation of rejection of 102 to test 101.60. The thing to watch out for here is that we all know it is Friday, it is towards the end of the week, so it's likely to be choppy, especially at this round number level. And if I showed you this, right, this was Monday, right? So we started Monday at that 101 support level, round number support level, and it's bounced back up, right? It's bounced up to about 102.15. So if you were just to look at this, right now, if the dollar index trades down, I wouldn't say it's ready to go down. I'm still anticipating that downward move, but confirmation would possibly be 101.88 or below 101.90. We could see it come back down to that 50% level, right? We could see it come back down to that 50% level. Even if we did the nearer term view, that would be that 61.8 level. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I think that we could see the dollar index come down to 101.60. Be a bit more specific, I would say, it could fluctuate around here, and only if it breaks down from 101.90, we're likely to see it come to 101.60. Hey Lydia, how are you doing? I know, Euro Yen, Pound Yen, I'll get to that. Okay, so that's the view from last night, from all the fundamental news from last night. For today, right, we just, well, not just, at 11 a.m. GMT plus 8, we had the inflation expectations for the Kiwi was 3.3%, expected or released at 2.79%. So inflation expectation quarter on quarter, what does it tell you? It really gives you that view or percentage that business managers expect the price of goods and services to change. The change in inflation or change in the CPI and the inflation expectations. Looks like it's expecting inflation in New Zealand to continue to the downside, right? And if it does continue to the downside, then we're going to see less likelihood for the RBNZ to hike rates. If I'm not wrong, the last meeting they had, they were commenting that they're going to wait and see how the data comes around before the next decision, and they were most likely going to pause. So with that news, what we actually saw on the Kiwi dollar was, I'm losing my voice, hang on. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's what happens. End of the week, too much talking, voice going. So what we saw with the Kiwi dollar was that as the as the inflation expectations shows that it's going to be coming towards that 2% level, likelihood for further rate increases to decrease, or likelihood to increase, that the Reserve Bank of New Zealand is not going to hike rates further, going to likely pause. We saw this drop, right? We saw this drop pretty much slightly from 6280 down to 625, almost 6250. Right now, but looks like it's going to bounce back up, predominantly driven by the dollar index, the way the dollar index is moving. All right, really losing my voice. So with that, what else we had? Just 1 hour before this session, we had the pound GDP, the UK GDP number month to month was a 0%, expected zero, came out at a minus 0.3. I didn't think that this was going to move prices too much. I'm sharing that with you guys as well in the group. We actually saw on that news, it came down slightly before now pushing back up. Why is it pushing back up? It's dropped that much. The dollar is weakening. That's why we see it pushing back up. Okay, so not a big impact here on the GDP number. Even preliminary GDP quarter on quarter is still at that 0.1%. Nothing big to worry about in terms of the news on this front. Last one to have for this week is the preliminary University of Michigan, UOM, consumer sentiment. Might be looking at a small drop from a 63.5 to a 63, but I think that we might see a little bit of an upset. We might see 63.5 or 63.6. Might be a bit of an upward move. Okay, so I wouldn't be too worried about this for now, because looking at the way the dollar index is moving, I don't think that, or could be moving, I don't think that the consumer sentiment number is going to change the direction too significantly, or could change the direction significantly. So I'm not too worried about that. All right. Good morning, Diana. How are you doing? Then, because we are at the end of the week, I'm just going to do a quick overview of what we could be looking at next week. Monday, looks like it's reasonable. No big news, nothing to be too concerned about. So why I like to know on Friday, just have a plan for Monday, Tuesday next week, is because at some point, some of you might have a trade that you're holding over the weekend. You want to know whether you're going to wake up to a surprise or not, or potentially to a surprise or not. So I like to know what's up on Monday. Nothing, no big surprises here. Doesn't mean that you should purposefully look to hold a trade over the weekend. I do prefer to close out trades leading into the weekend, because you just never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to start a war, or whether a default is coming on any front, right? So I do prefer to close out trades heading into the weekend. Into Tuesday next week, we have Canadian CPI numbers to be released, some employment numbers, retail sales will be interesting for the US on Tuesday. Not much onto Wednesday, Friday, Thursday, some employment numbers for the Aussies. The Eurozone's on holiday, and then not much else. We do have Chair Powell speaking on late Friday night. Perspectives on monetary policy could, because it is talking a little bit about monetary policy, if he just hinted something about future rates or possible actions, it could have some impact. All right, but just scrolling through this, you'll notice that not a lot of big news to be released apart from the Canadians. So it should be hopefully straightforward trading for next week. Okay, but let's just focus on today for now. With all that said, looking at the dollar index, Still looking for confirmation of rejection of 102 to test 101.60. Still looking for that move. Looking at the Kiwi dollar, it did not bounce off, so I'll take that away. It broke through, so that trade did not trigger. And I would remove this diagonal line, trend line, because it's broken already, so it's not valid anymore. Now, if I did this, you would notice that the Kiwi dollar came all the way down, tested that 50% retracement level, and now looks like it could bounce back up. Okay, again, anticipating that dollar weakness, then we could see the Kiwi dollar push up towards that resistance level, right? The resistance level of 632, almost 6320, 6315 to 6320. Would it be worth a trade to the upside? I would say that you have about 40 pip, 30 pip, maybe. Let's just add one more view into this where we could see this move. Okay, I think that it looks like it's a little bit. It looks like it's a little bit early now, right? We could just see it bounce a little bit, test this level, and trade down. So I'll be a little bit careful there on the Kiwi dollar. I would like to. So I see this point here as a resistance, but in a more relevant level. Let me just do this. So 50% is there. I see this as a previous level. Okay, so what I would be looking for as a in between, it's close to that support level, it's bounced off 50%. You could be looking on the Kiwi dollar to be very safe, or to be safer. I'll be looking at this breaking above 23.6. So I would look to buy above 6280, 50 pip, take profit, and then just below this point, maybe 25 pip, or I don't like this. Okay, best if you can do a 35 pip stop loss, a 50 pip take profit, but I think if it comes up, you could be looking to look for further upside, but that would be, if we had to get a trade out on the Kiwi dollar, it would be 6280, 35 pip stop loss, 50 pip take profit towards that 61.8 retracement level. Okay, I actually think that despite 61.8 being there, we could actually see it come up to 0.6350, about that range. So I'll tell you what you do. You do that. 6280, 35 pip stop loss, 65 pip take profit, consideration at 6330. I like that one better. Okay, so buy 6280, stop loss 35, take profit 65 with a hesitation. Take profit 65, hesitation at 61.8%. There we go. Alrighty. Hi AYJ, how are you doing? Is it better to trade the pound dollar over the pound yen? I think they seem to go in the same direction. It is. I would, for the news, in relation to the Bank of England news yesterday, I would prefer to first focus on the pound dollar. So I'll look at the pound dollar, see where I can catch a trade there. Then, because the pound dollar tends to move, but with a little bit less volatility compared to the pound yen. So I would be looking at the pound dollar to go for a standardized move, and then after that, I'll look into the pound. Once I close out that trade, I'll look into the pound yen for possibly whether it's going to have a bit more volatility to try and catch another move. Okay, so always go for the main pair first, then after that the cross pairs. That's what I would do. Hey Hamid, how you doing? So that's the Kiwi dollar. Okay, um, Aussie dollar. I was very happy with this trade I did as well. It did come down. Not only am I happy on a trade, I'm super happy when it comes down to a support level and finds the support level, because it reinforces the levels that I have identified. So let me know if you did get into the Aussie dollar to the downside. That was about a 45 pip move to the downside there. Right now, finding that support, again, I'll take away this trend line because I don't think it's valid anymore. Okay, now given that it's found this, I would actually prefer the Aussie dollar compared to the Kiwi. Okay, why? It's because Kiwi, it's just a bit above that support level. I struggled. I was just meddling with the levels. That's why I would prefer the Aussie dollar, given that it's looking like it's bouncing off this support. With that, if we just consider this view, 23, no, okay, I wouldn't put that. I would say that taking on just this view, I would be looking for it to clear above the near term, this level here. All right, if it can clear above 6710, this is a nice round number there. Right, if we can clear above 6710, then I think that we could see further upside on the Aussie dollar, a retracement back above. So 6710, stop loss 25 pips, take profit. I could go all the way back up to 80 pips in the best case scenario. If not, then halfway would be a hesitation point. Yep, so you can see that 50% right there. If I did that, then that's probably the 61.8% there as well. So I would be looking at some hesitation there. Okay, so you could be looking at a 1:1, 1:1.5 to the upside, bit of hesitation, and then ultimately at 80 pips. Diana, I haven't done US CAD yet. That's usually the last one. Okay, so yep, take that away for now. Okay, so yes, the Aussie is consolidating at the support level. Very good, Haider. It did come down, touch that level, and find that support, right? Its relevant point was from the 5th of May last week, where it touched this level. In this case, it bounced straight up, but what we saw is it set at that support level. So we're still looking for that dollar weakness. If that dollar weakness does come around, then Aussie dollar 6710, stop loss 25 pips, take profit 80 with a bit of hesitation. Okay. Buy 0.6710, stop loss 25, take profit 80, and hesitation at 6750. 0.6750. There we go. Okay. Right, so that's the thought process on the Aussie. If the dollar, right, is still trading, still fluctuating along that 102 level, if it does break to the upside, right, if it does reverse, doesn't come down, it does push to the upside, you could be looking to sell the Aussie down back to the support level as a short-term trend following trade. But I would like to see it bounce back up. Okay, could you sell the Kiwi dollar down? I think that I'll be a bit more hesitant on the Kiwi as well. I would be more, I would like the Aussie either to the upside or downside a little bit more. Good morning, Jamil. How are you doing? All right, look at that. US yen news came out. Why did it drop? The dollar weakened briefly because of that. At that point, the pound news, right? As pound fluctuated around, we saw the dollar drop, and then we saw this drag down. See, at 8 p.m. at the same time, dollar dropped before it pushed back up. So we saw the same thing. It dropped, and then it pushed back up. I still am going to hold the same view that it's going to fluctuate between this range, right? Along this trend line, it might look like a fake break, bounce back up. Again, you can see that it was just outside, that's why it bounced back in. It is likely to hold at 135.50. I think it's going to hold. So we're going to see this trade within this range. Not a great trading scenario at this point. I'll say, just range between 134.80, 135.50, look for a breakout to the upside. I'll hold that view. I don't think it's going to change too much. Only thing I'll change is maybe 134.40 on this. Okay, so I think it's going to have a bit of a bigger range, but I don't anticipate that the US yen is going to break out this week, today. No worries, Suki, no worries. We'll get to that. Okay, so yeah, US yen going to fluctuate. I still see some upside, right? I still see this doing that, but I think it's going to bounce around like that again. Okay, so now back to the main feature. This has been, the big one over the last couple of days. We've been talking about it quite a bit. Pound dollar broke that support, went straight down to that 1.25 level. Support level held. I know many of you did jump into this trade. Super glad for you guys as well. Now looking at it, possibly with that dollar looking like it could push down, I think that I would be looking for this to push up, right, to this resistance level. So why this level? It's because of this 28th of April, and then also the 9th of May. So we could see this push up, where to, I think I'll be a bit safer here. So I would say if it breaks above 1.2540, could get to this resistance level or towards that 50% level. I don't think we're going to see a massive, too significant a move back up. So what you could be looking for, a bit of a shorter term trade, will be 1.2545. Could be safe. 40 pip stop loss, 40 pip take profit. Maybe it's slightly counter trend. It's counter trend of the short term move. So I would like to keep the stop a little bit nearer. Yeah, it needs to break above. It needs to close above 23.6 at 1.2540 level. Could trade up 40 pips. Because it is slightly counter trend, I would keep a stop loss quite tight at 20 pips. Okay, so 1.2545. And what you'll notice as well now, the drill is that 1.25, stop loss 20, take profit 40. Okay, the main thing now is we've gone through 1, 2, 3 pairs, 4 pairs, and we've just been looking at buying it up, expecting that dollar weakness. If that dollar weakness doesn't come around, you want to have an alternate plan, do a scenario planning, so an alternate plan. That's why I'm highlighting the Aussie dollar, could come back down. I would be a bit more careful trying to sell the pound down because that support level seems to be quite strong. Might have a fake break before coming back up. Okay, so if dollar strength, I'll be looking at Aussie dollar and also possibly gold, right? I'll tell you more about that. So as we looked into the US yen fluctuating within that range, that narrowing range, pound dollar might push up slightly. Then looking at the pound yen, it came all the way down, found that support, and then pushing back up. So I like that it is coming to this support turned resistance level. If it does break, you could be looking, and it's a nice round number at 169. So you could be looking for, let's see, a break of there you go, 38.2. So I would say 169.25. Okay, 169.25. Remember again, it is the pound yen, so it does have quite significant moves. Very choppy, but once it finds a direction, we could see a big push. So I would say that you could go for 150 to the upside with a hesitation at almost 170. Okay. Sell pound. I haven't done pound Aussie yet, but we'll have a look at that. Okay. So pound yen, I'll be looking at that. Break above 38.2, about 169.25. Stop loss 35 or even 40 pips. Take profit at 150 to the upside. Okay. Now, if we look at the pound Aussie, this was a couple of days ago. Take that away. Looking at the way it's moving now, found a good strong support at 1.8586. I think that it could push pound dollar going up, will drag this up. Aussie dollar sitting there pushing up could push it down a little bit. I think that with the way it's moving, most likely we're going to see the pound Aussie trade up, but it's not going to be a straight line, right? It's going to be a choppy price action along this range because it is trying to break above that 38.2 level with the 61 towards that 61.8. Oh, okay. But anyway, I'll just do the pound Aussie since we have it here. It's the last time it came up to this point, it failed, it retraced back down. Right now, it's testing again. So if it does break above, could get to 61.8, but it's right in the middle. There is 70 pips to the upside, but your stop loss, I think, will be a little bit variable. You might be looking at 1:1. So I'm not too keen on this, but I do think it's going to push to the upside. Okay, in terms of the Aussie dollar, this would be in the scenario that we see the dollar strengthen, right? The selling of the Aussie to the downside will be in the scenario that the dollar strengthens. So you would either be entering a sell on the Aussie or a buy on the pound, right? You would never be looking at a buying the pound up and trying to sell the Aussie down because that would just, it could happen for a short period of time, but if it's driven by the dollar, then it should move in the same direction. All right, Suki, I hope that clarifies it a little bit. Euro dollar came down, tested that, just broke a little bit below 109 round number support level, now bouncing back up. If you look at the way the euro had dropped, right, I would say it's very early days. It's still not ready to buy it up, right? Not ready to buy it up yet. I would hold this same view. In fact, I could possibly go a little bit earlier. So 1.0980, stop loss 30 pips, take profit 90, or you could even be looking at 70, just that recent high there. Looking at this, nope, I don't like it. I think I don't see why it will move 100 pips to the upside today. So, you could be looking at about 70 pips there. Okay, so needs to push up. In fact, I think that this could happen today. I don't think it could trigger this trade. I think it might be if it does push up, this might be a setup for next week. Okay, so in terms of the euro dollar, I'll be looking for a sustained rebound from support at 1.09. Then we could be looking to buy from 1.0980, 30 pip stop loss, 70 pip take profit. 1.0980, 30 pip stop loss, 70 pip take profit. There we go. Cool. Fantastic. All right. Making sense so far? All good? Let me know. While you're doing that, we'll have a look at the US Swiss franc. It pretty much, this would have been a tricky one, right? I can tell you I didn't get into this trade. We were looking for it to test that trend line and reject, looking to sell down. If you did get into this trade, you would have been stopped out, unfortunately, because it would have triggered, came down to the resistance turn support level, bounced back up, hit the stop loss, and now working out quite nicely. So, that would not have worked out well. With that said, thanks Suki, thanks Diana. With that said, I think that the US Swiss franc is in a weird, it's in an odd position. Why do I say it's an odd position? It's really forming that narrowing triangle, right? It could very well do this and come into this range, right? And it could come down, test this level, and bounce back up, and then trade within this range. I would not, even if it does break and come down, it would only be, a 25 to a 65, maximum of 65 pip, 60 pip to the downside, which I don't think is going to happen today. I think that it could just do this, right? Or in the more specific case, it could break and then do this, and then push up again. Then this gets a bit dragged out, right? So I would say stay out and watch it as it narrows. We could be looking for a big breakout, but possibly not today. So watch S triangle forms. Okay. Dollar pushing up a little bit, right? Dollar pushing up right now, and then that's why you see the US Swiss franc rebounding back up to that 8910 level. Okay, so nothing exciting there. In terms of the US CAD, all right, we were looking for it to shoot up, test that resistance, and turn down didn't happen, so I'll take that away for now. But what you notice is that it is sitting in a tight consolidation, right? A very tight consolidation just below 1.35, right? Just below 1.35. Looking at the news, we don't have any CAD news today, and it is possibly at that 61.8, just below that 61.8 level. I would like to think that, where is this? Okay, that's not a strong level, so we can take that away for now. And if we had taken that away, okay, then you could have this. Right, there we go. Okay, so now given that it's consolidating at this range, if the dollar does weaken to the downside, then we could see the US CAD trade down. But with the way it's moving, I'll give you two scenarios. All right, I'll give you two scenarios on the US CAD. If the dollar pushes to the upside, then you could be looking for it to break above 1.35 and with that near-term resistance there. So two options here on the US CAD is if it does break above 1.3540, it could push up 90 pips, stop loss 30. This is on dollar strength. And then, or if it turns down, then a breakout to the downside about 1.3470. Stop loss about 30 pips. Take profit, you could be looking for about 60, or I would say reasonably 90 pips. Right? So you could be looking at this range there. It's just in that area, so we're looking for that breakout on the US CAD. So US CAD, we do have both upside and downside potential. Okay, it's very flexible there on the US CAD. I just remembered I forgot to do Euro Yen. Euro Yen didn't break that resistance. Tested the support at 146 about 146.50, pushing back up, anticipating that the euro was going to push up. Now it has a big spike down because of the dollar. I think what we could see here is for the Euro Yen, I think that we could see this forming a bit of a resistance, right? And with the way we look at the yen, could push up before turning back down again. Euro Yen, I think that it's going to sit around this level because this was a previous swing point, but most likely could push up before turning back down again. I don't see any big change in direction at this point. Could come up, test that 147.75 level, 147.80 level before turning back down again. If you had to force a trade out or had to have a trade set up, then I would say a rejection to about 147.60, stop loss 30 something pips, take profit 100 to the downside. But it really needs to see what happens at this trend line. Okay. Yeah, okay. With that, then looking at gold. Ola's asking about that. I was looking for it to continue to the downside, test at 2000 level. I think that this near term some strength on the dollar now is actually going to be helpful, because as the dollar goes up, we could see gold trade down. I do really want to see it come down to that 2000 level first, because I think that at 2000 we could see it bounce back up again, right? So first part of this move, it's still too early to call a bounce, but I would like to see it drop now at 2008, drop to 2000, then I'll be looking for that bounce back up to that 2050 range. So we're looking for a retrace down to 2000, retrace down to 2000, rejection of support to trade up to 2050. Okay, alrighty. Um, Seems quite quick that I went through everything. So any further questions? You can see that it's possibly a day where, and I say this every Friday. I say this almost every Friday, where it might be a day of retracements. We might not see a lot of trades happening, right? So don't feel like you have to force trades out. We saw a lot of movements over Thursday or Wednesday and Thursday. So do think about it as, you might be looking at some retracements before a rebound, but might also be an early weekend for everyone. Is it better to trade the pound dollar over the pound yen? They seem to be going the same direction. Pound yen test. I like this actually. Now looking at this, pound dollar coming back down. Um, I would still prefer the pound dollar. I'll still prefer the pound dollar compared to the pound yen, right? Just because if you look at the pound yen, then you really have to think about what happens on the US yen together the pound dollar, um, before you're going to see a clearer direction on the pound yen. Pound yen is also very volatile, a lot of tails, spikes and shadows. So I would say just, it's a lot more tricky to trade compared to the pound dollar. Okay. Thank you, Val. Thank you, BL. So again, guys, if you haven't already, do join the Discord channel. It is there. We can take our discussions beyond this session. And for now, please enjoy your weekend, and I'll catch you next week on our daily market analysis. So take care now. Bye bye.